Welcome to the Builder's House. Theistic Satanism from Christianity. So in part 1, I began to share a little more of my own journey of why I went from being a fundamentalist Christian girl and now being in my 50s following the path of Theistic Satanism and what led me to that decision. So, who is Satan to me? I realize that Satanism can mean a lot of things to different people. So I'm not putting any labels on anyone here. There are those who are atheistic Satanists, and then those who believe that Satan is an actual being, such as I do. So everyone has their own personal viewpoints on who Satan is and who he is not to them. So I'm just going to keep it personal here and share my own experience with the being whom I've come to know as Satan, even though I do realize that he has gone by many names throughout the eons. But that's another discussion. So I'm going to start with who Satan is not. Satan is not a religion that I practice, dictated by a book and those who call themselves authorities, pastors, teachers, priests, what have you. Because of my experiences within religion for so long, I don't follow this kind of mindset any longer. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy reading a good book or listening to a few videos out there on other people's experiences or perspectives. I also enjoy books or videos that deal with history, factual information, such things as that. But books that get into instructions and how to communicate with the deity, how to perform rituals, I'm not into that. I don't believe Satan is some fallen angel or malevolent tyrant, which Abrahamic religion teaches. So that whole narrative has gone out the door with my leaving the Abrahamic religion, thankfully. So who Satan is to me, I do believe that he is a very ancient being. And as I said, he has gone by many titles, many names throughout the millennia, within various cultures, time periods of human history. So I believe the earth is a lot more old than 6,000 years, as many Christians believe. It could be millions of years. That's a whole other study, which I haven't looked into extensively. But anyway, moving forward here, I believe that Satan, he is my true creator. And there's many reasons for that, some of which I will get into a little bit later in this video. So as I went into a little bit into part 1, here in Western society, anyway, the word Satanism or Satanist, from what I've seen in the media, such as the movies, music, the so-called mainstream news media, they've linked Satanism with everything, unfortunately, that is very toxic. Those who call themselves Satanists or Luciferians are grouped with those who are involved with negative behaviors, such as drug use, crime, even harming children and animals. And I'm not going to get into that all now, but I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. It's all over YouTube, places like BitChute, and it's not just Christians or religious people, it's secular as well. So it really makes a person wonder where all this is coming from. You see it in Hollywood, a lot of the movies that I grew up with, they call it family entertainment. I'm calling it entrainment. But, the music, the books, even a lot of the children's books that I grew up with, in some of the games, the toys out there, and now with all the computer games out there in the last decade or so, they depict the devil, as he's called, as they call him, as some monstrosity, everything linked to evil, to bring fear, anxiety, mental illness, and yeah. So it's the same with what Christians call demons, witches, witchcraft, everything that relates to the occult. It's depicted in a very dark, negative way. Or Satan is mocked. He's painted out as some silly comic strip character in a red suit. All these Halloween costumes are depicting these very grotesque creatures, joked about, ridiculed. I don't believe this is all just a coincidence or just the way things are. In the movies, people are supposedly, in these types of horror movies, as they call them, you got these demon-possessed people who are depicted to be mentally ill, unstable, weak, naive, and then this religious priest, portrayed as the heroic wise one who comes to deliver the poor soul from the clutches of Satan or the demon. Yeah, that's what a lot of the movies depict. Demons, which I also believe to be very ancient beings, that's another discussion, but it's very, very interesting what's actually out there when you start analyzing it. So the question that goes through my mind is why? It's like it's on both sides, the religious and the secular, as one could say. They've worked very hard to keep humanity away from this entity these last centuries, even thousands of years. It's not just a weekend hobby for them. It's a concerted, frantic effort to hide this being, Satan's true identity, to cover up who he is, in desperate hope that no human will even desire to know him or come near to him. I grew up like this, in the church, and it wasn't just the church, but, sermons were taught, and he was made out to be my worst enemy, always at the door waiting to get me. And songs were sung about him, and so on and so forth. So what are they afraid of? What are they really afraid of? What do I mean by that? Well, why is this being made out to be everything that is linked with malevolence? If Satan is the true creator, as I do believe he is, what does that say? Well, for me, it says there is a very real war out there, and things are not as they appear to be. No, I'm not conspiracy-minded. Well, maybe a little bit. But I like to analyze things and look at things for what they are, instead of the common view that most people hold out there, that people just take for granted or do not question. Yeah, I look at things from many perspectives. So this is one of the questions that have, just gone through my mind. There is gross deception out there on so many levels, and religion is just one of the tools that is used, and believe that the true enemies of humanity have used to bring humans into a prison house, if you will. And I'll give you an example. When I grew up in Christianity, one of the biggest doctrines they push is the born in sin. Those of you who were part of Christianity or are still part of it will know what I mean. But I'm going to define it just a little bit clearer for those of you who haven't been in the church system. Christianity teaches that a soul coming into this physical plane, entering a human body, that they're born broken. They're born dysfunctional, not whole. They're fragmented. They're sick, if you will, whatever words we can use here. Yeah, this is one of the first things that Satan began to teach me when I came out of religion. I, as a soul, was not born broken. I was born a complete being as a soul. I'm whole, and my soul is as a system created with all the necessary parts, if you will, to learn, to grow, and to thrive. I'm not saying that I don't need to develop or to learn. I came here as a soul to develop myself. But I'm not fragmented. I'm not sick. I'm not dysfunctional. And I'm not broken as a spirit. I do believe that I am a spirit being within a human body. And my body is as a house, if you will, like a vessel that I can be on this physical plane within. So I came equipped as a fully functional system. And that's one thing that is incredibly deceptive and damaging about that Christian teaching, is believing the teachings. A person comes to believe it. How can I explain it? It's something that becomes part of them. So believing that they're not whole, that they're not right, and they need medicine, so to speak, to become whole. They need a cure, they need a treatment, they need a vaccine put into them so they can be well again. You see what I'm talking about? So, of course, the church has just that medicine to make the person well again, whole again. So their good news of salvation, although it appears to be a positive message, hope of salvation, light in the darkness, Jesus came to save you, all that whole narrative. It seems very encouraging on the surface, but it's not, because it conditions a person's mind and thought process, how they think of themselves, who and what they are, to think of themselves as damaged goods, sick, broken, needing to be healed, needing to be made whole. This is something I've questioned. Like I said, everything, I like to look at it from different angles and analyzing it to see if it's just what, is taught and is not questioned. Is this true or is this not true? So the entire message builds a false foundation, and it just goes from there. It's very crafty. As I said in part one, it paints Christianity as the good guys, out there to share the message of good news. And those who are young, they're easier prey. Those who are facing other life issues, like loneliness, depression, maybe a loss of a loved one, a bad home situation, things, that just life brings. They fall prey to these types of lies, and they are lies. So where am I going with this? So that's just one example. As I was saying, if Satan is the true creator, which I do believe he is, what does this truly say? It says that there's a real war going going on out there. And one of the deceptions, which I just described, the born broken, it brings those in Christianity into a prison house. It's a slave mentality. Take Christianity's medicine and be whole again. Take our vaccine, follow our map, and you will get home. What is the map? It's their entire structure of teachings and dogmas that when a human comes into that structure like a labyrinth, they give their power away. What is your power? Well, it's the ability you have as a soul, as a fully developed entity, as a spirit being you were born with. And that belongs to you. It doesn't belong to anyone else. It's not theirs. The church tells you, we will tell you who the true creator is. We will tell you how to worship him. We will tell you what he wants, what he requires, how to love him, how to obey him. We will tell you who you are and how to see, how to hear. See, these are all the things that are not just spoken directly, but indirectly when a person is part of the religion, as I was through the years. Many things are not spoken, but a person is shaped and molded through these types of messages. So they say things like, well, yeah, we got this book. It lays out all the true creator's commands, all his laws. And our teachers, pastors and priests, will tell you how to follow those laws. And keep in mind, if you don't follow those laws, the creator, he's going to punish you. If not in this life, after you die, you will go to a place called hell and burn for eternity. So those are the kind of doctrines that they've created to keep people in line. They use fear, manipulation, and along with that, they've got to have a villain. They've got to have the bad guy to keep the humans in line, to keep them in the box, to keep them taking the medicine. So it's like keeping a person hooked on drugs. Got to have that drug. And they told me that, you got to have a pastor, you got to have a church, because if you don't go to church, you're going to backslide. You're going to get lukewarm. And, then the devil, who is as a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour, he'll be right there waiting to pull you down. So it sounds silly, from someone from the outside, but when you're in it for so long, and, these kinds of messages are, they're put in different ways, and it's very, very damaging. That's their narrative. So I believe that's one of the reasons why they want to keep you away from this being whom they've named Satan in their lying book, the Bible. Because Satan is not the adversary of humans. No, Satan is the adversary of them. They are a false system set up, the counterfeit. So even though they promise mankind life, it's a flagrant lie. It's like a grand entrapment, like a vast labyrinth that once a person becomes entangled within, it is difficult to find one's way out. Because it's not just something a person does, but the beliefs become a part of the very fiber of one's being, if they've been in it for any amount of time. How they think, how they process information, affecting every choice they make. So, yeah, it's something very serious. And so Satan, the true creator, what does the word create speak of to you? To me, the word create speaks of life. It speaks of building, designing, cultivating, planting, growth, life. It speaks of the vast complexity of the creation we see all around us, the incredible energy that is moving, breathing, alive. Create speaks of beauty and diverse intricacy of each living creature. This is what Satan is to me. He is the builder. Thus, the Builder's House, the name of my channel. Creator speaks of thoughtful and wise planning, careful design, like an ancient architect would design a vast city with all the road systems, the structures, every detail laid out carefully and planned. Satan to me is a teacher and a guide. He deserves to be honored, revered, and given the utmost respect and love. So that is what Satanism and being a Satanist is to me. It's allowing this one to teach and guide me and learning how to develop my soul, the true me. Just as within our physical bodies, little children learning how to walk, learning how to talk, getting a few bumps and bruises, it takes time and consistent effort to develop. We're not born broken as souls. We're not fragmented. We came here to learn, grow, and develop our spiritual eyes to see and our ears to hear and how to walk. And we have one who will teach and guide us on that journey. Don't let their lies blind you from seeing who Satan truly is and who he can be to you. So with that, I'm going to close. Praise, honor, and love be to you, Satan. So be it, and so it is.